What would you do if your family had an extra $850 to spend? You probably would use it to better your home, feed your family, or fuel your car to go to work. Idahoans can benefit from this additional breathing room if the legislature does one simple thing: repealing the grocery tax. This tax policy is quickly becoming obsolete across the nation, with Idaho being one of only 4 states still fully taxing groceries. So what's the holdup? Why do we still have a grocery tax in a state that calls itself conservative? Idaho's budget can certainly afford it. On this week's episode of Fiscal Fridays, we dive into the Idaho grocery tax. Idaho charges the full 6% sales tax on goods to groceries, but we aren't in good company. Nearly all our neighbors either don't have a tax on groceries or have no sales tax at all. Utah is the only exception with a lower tax on groceries than for other goods. Idaho is one of just 4 states that applies the full sales tax rate for groceries and the only western state to do so. The Gem State is only joined by the likes of South Dakota, Mississippi, and Hawaii. Mississippi is the only state that taxes groceries at a rate that is higher than Idaho. Support for the sales tax is dwindling over the last few years too. By the start of 2026, both Illinois and Kansas are set to end their grocery taxes. Utah voters will decide on whether to keep their grocery tax when they vote on the measure to repeal it in November. Even if it ends up staying, it is only up to half the rate we have in Idaho. In all, Idaho is behind virtually all states on this issue, and far behind her more conservative peers. With Idaho being virtually alone on this policy issue, why do we have a grocery tax? There have been several efforts over the years to repeal the tax. The closest the state came to repealing the grocery tax was in 2017 when a bill made it to then Governor Butch Otter's desk, where he then vetoed it. Politicians try to justify leaving the tax in place because Idaho has a $120 tax credit, but there are several issues with this. The main issue is that people need money for food now, not just during tax time. Besides, why should Idahoans go through the whole song and dance of giving their money to the government only for them to give it back at the end of the year? Related to this is the claim that the government can't afford to cut the tax. But here's where they're wrong. First, if Idahoans are truly getting all they paid back in the grocery tax through the credit anyway, then the government didn't make any money at all. So if cutting the tax is too expensive for the government, it proves that it is not enough to offset what Idahoans must pay through the tax. The overall cost of repealing the grocery tax is $350 million. This is just 4% of the state budget, less any federal funds. Given that the budget has grown nearly 53% in just the last 5 years, perhaps it would be healthy for the government to take it back a notch. As we talk about costs, let us return to the question we posed at the top of the show. What can Idaho families do with the money they saved from not having to pay the grocery tax? As it turns out, quite a lot of things. For starters, the immediate effect of repealing the grocery tax will free up an additional 6% of your grocery budget for additional food to feed your family. This could be critical at a time where families are struggling to keep up with inflation. Cutting the grocery tax could keep them out of programs that foster government dependency, like food stamps. Beyond food, the additional $850 per year could help families afford better homes and even cover the cost of their commute. Savings from the grocery tax repeal could add $71 per month to their budget for rent. This could not only improve their standard of living, but with rising housing costs in Idaho, this could help relieve the mounting pressure. Western states like Idaho also have some of the highest gas prices in the country. At present, the average cost of gas in the Gem State is $3.62 per gallon, according to AAA. Savings from grocery tax repeal could fund up to 36% of their annual spending on gas. That amounts to about 20 tanks of gas to fill an average compact car. In closing, Idaho is left behind on this conservative policy. Few states are keeping this repressive tax, and many of the arguments for keeping it aren't holding any water. As we debate this issue, Idaho families are struggling to put food on the table, pay rent, and put fuel in their cars. It is time we offered some immediate relief by having the government take less and allowing families to keep more of what they earn. Thank you for supporting the content we produce at the Idaho Freedom Foundation. Be sure to like and subscribe to help spread our message of freedom, family, and small government. IFF is leading on this conservative policy issue. Our president, Ron Nate, produced 3 terrific articles just this week about the grocery tax repeal. To read more, please visit idahofreedom.org.